Okay, here we go. It's Tuesday, December 31st, 2024. We have Monday Night Football to recap. We get into the Jets head coach rumors. We have NBA games to recap. LeBron turned 40. We have NHL games to recap. My idea for how I would improve the Winter Classic. We have a ROKI SASAKI update. And we might get into some Pete Alonso, Anthony Santander thoughts on those top free agents who are remaining on the MLB market. This is the Early Game Pod. Listen to the show in the mornings, on your commute, whenever and wherever, so you can be a part of today's sports conversations. Let's go. So last night, the Lions played the 49ers in Monday Night Football. The fascinating part to me was that this game literally meant nothing. Next week, the Lions are going to play the Vikings for all the marbles. First place in the NFC. I love it, by the way. It has felt up to this point in this NFL season, and I hate to be negative, but it's felt like something's missing. We haven't had that great game that everyone's kind of talking about, that when you look back on this season, you're thinking about, oh, that's the game I remember. That game is memorable. It had memorable moments in it. It's just such a unique dynamic. I can't remember a game like this where it's already flexed to prime time for Sunday Night Football. You have a bye on the line, so it's basically just enough to get everybody motivated to win it. We get to see Jared Goff, who's playing at an elite level right now. We get to see Sam Darnold. There's so much surrounding him. Maybe we'll get into that another day. Just that situation all in and of itself. I have thoughts on that. But I think that after a season of subpar quarterback play, and I've mentioned that before, I mean, recently we've gotten better quarterback play, especially since Joe Burrow has kind of like emerged in this last week in conversations. We barely spoke about him. Felt like we barely spoke about him until the last couple of weeks just because of how bad the Bengals have been. But to me, this next Sunday Night Football is a huge reward to all of us for a great season, what was a great season and a lot of great storylines, but for one that felt like we didn't have a lot of great games. And personified, that is personified by last night, a meaningless Monday Night Football primetime game. And I think that the story last night, not as much as the Lions being great and winning the meaningless game, but was just kind of about the 49ers, right? A lot of people online talking about Brock Purdy. He got attacked last night online. That people did not like that performance from Brock Purdy. He had 2 interceptions. That being said, he had 3 touchdowns. He threw for 377 passing yards. I already thought a couple years ago when he was taking over the headlines. Brock Purdy was a top quarterback in the league. It was easy for sports talk shows to bring up Brock Purdy and say, this guy is a top 2 quarterback in the league. He's a top 5 quarterback in the league. Pump the brakes a little bit, guys. He was Mr. Irrelevant for a reason. He was on, and honestly, at the current moment, he is on a great team. A lot of injuries, the 49ers team. And he has had some great seasons with the 49ers. He is actually currently having a very solid year. He's 8th in the league in passing yards, which is more than Josh Allen, by the way. He's 13th in the league in passing touchdowns. So, in a league where, especially in today's day and age, we are looking at which quarterbacks are kind of not average, but middle of the pack. What quarterback can you add to your team, or which quarterbacks, not add to your team, but which quarterbacks where you put together a great team can come in and just be solid for you? Is that not exactly what Brock Purdy is? Just solid enough? He took them to the Super Bowl. It's crazy to me. You can't have it both ways. Don't overreact that Mr. Irrelevant is amazing, and then overreact when his team around him is not playing so well. And yeah, he doesn't play so well. He threw a bad pick last night. He's does not. I'm not saying he has the best arm, and I was one of the people that was trying to pump the brakes, excuse me, and say, look, guys, this guy was Mr. Relevant. There's a reason why he was drafted where he was. He is not the most talented quarterback. That's Josh Allen. That's Lamar Jackson. That's Pat Mahomes. That's Joe Burrow. Those are the top quarterbacks right now. Do not talk about Brock Purdy in the context of being a top quarterback in the league. He's not. You are lying to yourself. Talk about Brock Purdy in the context that he is average. And that's not a bad thing. Talk about him that he is good enough to take a really good team around him on a big run. Meanwhile, the Lions are just extremely fun. They win an absolutely meaningless game. That play, the lateral to Jameson Williams, I loved that. That was so fun. And you really see what Ben Johnson is all about on that play and what Ben Johnson can do for you as a head coach. And so we kind of were that was kind of the narrative last night, right? We were talking about on Twitter. I saw a lot of people talking about, well, this is the guy the Bears might want. I think Ben Johnson would be a perfect fit for the Bears. But I do have a little doubt. Well, so not perfect. Take that back. I think he'd be a really good fit for the Bears. The issue I have is you never really know what kind of voice these offensive coordinators have. And what the Bears are lacking right now is a big boy in the room, an adult in the room. They need an adult. They need somebody who's been there. They need someone who's had success. And I think when push comes to shove, my gut tells me, I have a lot of gut feelings in this show, by the way, today's show. My gut tells me, ultimately, the Bears are going to want to go for a guy like Pete Carroll. And I know we saw those rumors the other day that Pete Carroll wants to coach the Bears. As much as I think Ben Johnson is the sexy pick for the Bears, and I think he's a really good fit, and I keep going back and forth on this. I think ultimately, the team that makes the most sense for them, the coach that makes the most sense for the Bears is Pete Carroll. They desperately need somebody to come in, to own the room, have the players' respect, has experience with young quarterbacks or quarterbacks who struggled. So he has experience with Russell Wilson. He has a little bit of he was the one who turned Geno around. Don't forget that. And gave him the opportunity to start in Seattle. I understand why Bears fans really want Ben Johnson. I think a lot. I personally think that if the Bears hire Ben Johnson, I think it will be successful. That being said, I do think Pete Carroll is probably the right choice for them. And speaking of head coaches, we had news yesterday. Rex Ryan yesterday morning confirmed on ESPN Radio with Jake Assman that he is going to interview for the Jets head coaching job after the season. ESPN sources also confirmed that Ron Rivera will interview for the job. This is the thing that I don't understand, and I saw this talked about a little bit on Twitter. How come the Jets are talking to head coaches before they're talking to GMs? Is the dysfunction continuing? I mean, not that I'm shocked. Does that make any sense? You're really going to hire a coach before you hire the GM? What kind of good GM? What GM that you might possibly want to be the general manager of the New York Jets is going to want to come into a situation where there's already a coach hired? The stigma is already bad. The narrative that Woody Johnson's son didn't want Jerry Jeudy because of the Madden rating, whether you believe that or not, and I tend to believe it. So you're telling me that good GM candidates are going to now say, hey, there's already a head coach hired here. That makes sense. The owner is out of his mind. The owner's son is making decisions for him. And now, that's a situation where I want to go into. Put that all aside. Put all that aside. I've been saying this for a while. I do think Rex Ryan is the right candidate. He can handle New York. He's had success with the Jets. Most importantly, he has worked with Woody. So he knows how to make sure that Woody's not stepping all over him. In 6 seasons with the Jets, first 2 years he went to the AFC Championship game. He has the success, as I mentioned. After that, not as good. 4 seasons of 500 or worse. But I think over time, I think Rex has aged nicely. I don't mean to. I don't think this is a great indicator for how good of a coach he'll be. I like how he kind of talks it when he does media and he's on ESPN a lot. I like how his new age of thinking. I think that he's adapted to the new NFL. I think it's a good situation for him. He can get creative with an offensive coordinator, hire one of those young guns. He will make their defense better. And I ultimately think he is the right guy for the job. Now, I don't get what the Ron Rivera situation is. I think that would be... For how much I think Rex Ryan would be a good fit with the Jets, I think Ron Rivera is like the 180 of that. Barely any success. He has proven that he cannot come into dysfunctional situations like he did with the Commanders. So, to me, Ron Rivera being hired for the Jets head coach just screams Woody Johnson continuing to try to have the helm, have power. He would have power over Ron Rivera. He would be making decisions for Ron Rivera. And so I just found this so fascinating how this Jets head coaching search is playing out. Okay, let's head over to the NBA. Let's do some quick recaps here because there were 7 games on the slate last night. Bulls at Hornets. The Bulls beat the Hornets 115-108 in overtime. Kobe White led the Bulls with 23 points. Miles Bridges led the Hornets with 31. Knicks played at the Wizards. The Knicks won 126-106. Josh Hart had a triple-double with 22 points, 15 rebounds, and 10 assists. He was fantastic last night. And he is such a revelation for this Knicks team. You know, when he was traded from the Blazers a couple seasons ago, you didn't really know what you were going to get. Were you going to get kind of more of a bench player? And he is really embracing a starting role with this team. Cat led the Knicks with 32 points, and Jonas Valanciunas had 22. I saw a report, actually, that the Knicks might be trying to get Valanciunas at the deadline with Mitch Robinson doubtful with his injury. And personally, I think that would be a fantastic move for them. I think as much as Mitch Robinson plays great minutes for them and definitely has a very unique and great skill set, I can get into this another time. I do not think he is the answer for them at center. I do think Cat should be playing the 4. And they could use a real center that's a little more versatile, a little more Isaiah Hartenstein-like. And I think Valanciunas kind of accomplishes that. Clippers played the Pelicans. Clippers won 116-113. Norman Powell led the way for the Clippers with 30 points, and CJ McCollum scored 33 for the Pelicans in the loss. The Nuggets and Jazz. Nuggets won this one 132-121, but boy, Nikola Jokic is just phenomenal, and he takes over games. He had 32 points and 22 rebounds with 11 assists, so another triple-double there. You will see there will be an ongoing narrative about my fascination with the role of big men in today's NBA and kind of how they're so prominent. Jokic is just awesome. That stat line is insanity. Talk about taking over a game. 22 rebounds and 30. I mean, you're just the centerpiece of the game. The 2010s were the era of the shooting guard. Like Steph was kind of, I think if we look back at the 2010s, yeah, it was a lot about LeBron. Steph, I think, kind of defines that era just based on how much success he had, how good he was, how much kind of the, kids tried emulating Steph. I genuinely think we will look back at the 2020s as the era of the big men in the NBA. The way that big men are shooting, scoring, I love it. I'm excited to get much more into that. But Jokic showing why he is a MVP candidate and an MVP year in, year out. Cavs played the Warriors. Cavs won 113-95. Darius Garland had 25 for the Cavs. They continue to just prove the doubters wrong. Man, they're 5 games up on the Celtics for the top seed in the Eastern Conference. They prove everybody wrong, but just a gut feeling. It's the kind of team you're nervous about. It's the kind of team you're not nervous about when you come playoff time. It's just, you get, I don't think that they strike fear in you if you're going to face them in the second round or in the conference final. You know what I'm saying? The Celtics, and I'm a little biased as a Knicks fan, but the Celtics and the Knicks both seem like they could beat the Cavs in a 7-game series. Just a gut feeling from watching them play. I say that very cautiously. That could be freezing cold takes all over me. The Sixers played the Blazers. Sixers won 125-103. Joel Embiid had 37 for the Sixers. He must have heard what I was saying, that he was what's wrong with the NBA today, proving that the haters wrong. The Sixers still find themselves on the outside of the playoff picture. Looking in, they're tied with the Pistons for the last playoff spot, but have played 2 less games. The Mavs and the Kings played one another. The Kings took that one, 110-100. De'Aaron Fox had 33 for the Kings. Sacramento tries to claw its way back in the playoff picture after just firing Coach Mike Brown, and that was a whole situation in and of itself. A lot of controversy surrounding that. He was fired right before he got onto the team plane. People were upset about it. They're still 2.5 games back of a play-in spot, So for the amount of talent on that team, however you fire the coach, I definitely think that that is warranted. So yesterday, LeBron turned 40. A lot of fanfare for that. He had this quote yesterday: "If I wanted to, I could play this game at a high level for another 5 to 7 years." And I think you'd be dumb to question that. He is playing at such a high level, even right now when he's 40. So he's averaging 25.3 points per game, which is 21st in the league. 9 assists, which is 4th in the league. Him and Tom Brady it's so crazy to be witnessing them both kind of at the same time. The way that that Brady was able to dominate so late into his career and be so successful, and the way LeBron is able to do the same thing. I mean, we are truly witnessing history. It's unbelievable. And if he wants to, he can play at this level. Just like he said, he will be able to play at this level for another 5 to 7 years. No doubt in my mind. And I think the thing to kind of keep in mind here, so he has 4 rings. Michael Jordan has 6. If LeBron can win a ring in the next 1 to 2 years, I know he's saying 5 to 7. Don't be shocked if that number is true and he really does try to play into his age 47 season. If he can win a ring in the next couple of years. If he doesn't win a ring in the next couple of years, I think he gives up and calls it a career. But we are truly witnessing a historic end to a career, one where LeBron will most likely go out on top the same way Brady did. Okay, let's go over to the NHL. Just 3 games on that slate. Rangers played the Panthers. Panthers won 5-3. The Rangers are 4-15 in their last 19 games. They continue to absolutely spiral. They're last place in the Metropolitan Division, 3rd worst record in the Eastern Conference. And if you just watch this team play, it is sickening. It is an embarrassment to hockey, the way the Rangers play. They don't care. They don't try. There's no passion. There's no effort. And if you're a fan of a sports team, I think those are the only things that you can ask for, regardless of how talented you are. And the Rangers are a very talented bunch. You can't argue with that. They went to 2 Eastern Conference Finals in the last 3 years. It's crazy to me to argue that they're not talented, whether it's a coaching thing or not. It is insane to me that they're in this position. Whether you fire Peter Laviolette, cut Mika Zibanejad, who I just don't understand why he has playing time. They had a 6-on-4 last night with an opportunity to tie the game, and he can't do anything. They got rid of Shruba. They got rid of Capo Caco. It's time. I think Zibanejad is the next to go. He is horrendous. Oh my goodness. It is infuriating watching them play. So we'll keep an eye on that, see if they make more changes over there. But it's just, what an embarrassment. They are an embarrassment to hockey. Hockey is a sport where toughness, effort, those are the things that every NHL player, regardless of your status, whether you're Connor McDavid or a fourth liner on a last place team, effort, grittiness, those are the things that the NHL pride themselves on. The Rangers are an embarrassment to the NHL, not just their fans. They're an embarrassment to those who are so passionate about that league. They're an embarrassment. Oh, they're just so sickening to watch. Meanwhile, the two newest NHL teams, Utah Hockey Club and the Seattle Kraken, they played each other. The Kraken won that one 5-2. Jaden Schwartz had a goal and 2 assists in that one. Utah is currently 4 points out of a playoff spot in their first season of play. The Kraken are even further out. And the last game on the slate last night was Predators at Jets. Jets shut out the Preds 3-0. Connor Hellebuck, he kept all 22 shots against him out. And Gabe Vilardi had 2 goals for the Jets in the win. Okay, so today, for the first time ever, is the Winter Classic. Usually they play the Winter Classic on New Year's Day. I find it kind of funny that they literally just admitted to not wanting to compete with the bowl games. So they move it to New Year's Eve. To me, it makes no sense. I think if you're going to watch the Winter Classic, you will watch it regardless of if it's on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve. Is everybody even off New Year's Eve? Because I thought the whole point was everybody's off New Year's Day. I mean, I don't know. I personally am off on New Year's Eve. I'm in school. But when I worked, I was off on New Year's Eve. So the Blues are taking on the Blackhawks. That's going to be at Wrigley. This event used to be so cool. I used to look forward to watching this so much. It has totally lost its novelty. From like 2010 to 2015, the Winter Classic was something I really looked forward to, and it was a lot of fun. I think, they've added all these other outdoor games to the slate, to the season, I think that kind of took away from it. But the novelty is it's just kind of, I don't know. It doesn't feel the same as it used to. The last good one that they had was during COVID when the Golden Knights and the Avs played at Lake Tahoe. That one was sick. That was so cool. There were no fans, but the scenery was fantastic. I think they should try to do more games like that. Find places. Don't go to stadiums anymore. Go find fun places. Go play on a lake again. Well, they didn't really play on the lake, but find somewhere cool to play if you're going to do these games. The novelty's gone. I mean, I guess it's cool that they're playing at Wrigley. My idea to improve it, though, play the game 10 p.m. on New Year's Eve. Have it lead into New Year's. That would be cool. That would be fun. Happy New Year! Like, have the ball drop, and that's when the buzzer goes on the game, and that's when the game ends. Okay, let's move on to baseball. Most of the free agents are now off the board, but we still have the ROKI SASAKI sweepstakes, and it's hard to tell if they're heating up. Not a lot coming out of the sweepstakes. So ROKI Sasaki, if you don't know, is a Japanese superstar pitcher. He's very young. And the way it works is he was posted. Teams can only give him a certain amount signing bonus, not a lot, and they can only sign him to a contract a certain amount that I'm not sure about. I'm pretty sure it does not count towards your luxury tax, which is big for a lot of teams. But moral of the story, he's cheap. So it doesn't matter if you're a big market team. It doesn't matter if you're a small market team. You can afford him. So yesterday, Sasaki's agent Joe Wolf came out and said that there was an update to the ROKI Sasaki sweepstakes. He shared And I'm referencing a article from Andy Martino from SNY. He said 20 teams reached out to Sasaki with recruiting materials such as videos and books. Sasaki, who is very much in charge of this process, asked that all meetings be held at the Wasserman Agency's Los Angeles offices. He also asked that no players attend the meetings. Sasaki is currently in Japan with his family, mulling over his upcoming decision. Sasaki might meet with one or two more teams or soon begin to eliminate teams. The latter seems somewhat more likely. Wolf does not expect that Sasaki will sign with a team when the international signing period begins on January 15th. He will likely make his decision between that date and January 23rd, the deadline of the posting process. Wolf said that Sasaki is driven to be the best. Okay. So, there, again, as mentioned on the last podcast, there's believed to be, the teams that are believed to have met with him are the Mets, Yankees, Cubs, Mariners, Rangers, Dodgers, Padres. So that's 7. The overall belief is that he will be a Los Angeles Dodger. Let me tell you, that would be the worst thing for baseball. Talk about building a super team. I mean, the pitching that the Dodgers have already is absurd. Yamamoto, Blake Snell, Ohtani, Tyler Glasnow. Add Sasaki, I'm missing somebody. Add Sasaki to that, I mean, it would be ridiculous. So, Dodgers, bad for baseball. Let's just say that. Dodgers, bad for baseball. Padres, I think would be a great fit. Add him to that starting rotation. That's a solid rotation. Already has Dylan Cease. Some rumors they might be traded. Add him to that rotation, and the Padres are now a little bit more of a player in the NL West. Don't forget, the Diamondbacks just added Corbin Burns. And they were already a great team. And so now the NL West is getting a little bit friskier. Add Sasaki to that mix on the Padres, and you're talking about a real battle out there in the NL West. The thing about the thing is that Joe Wolf is coming out and saying, here are all these qualifiers for what Sasaki is looking for, and is trying to maybe make everybody feel better that it's not the Dodgers. The issue is the Dodgers check all those boxes. So whether Sasaki, and I appreciate Sasaki doing his due diligence and making it seem like other teams are involved, but the Dodgers check every single box that they said. He has also mentioned about having good pitching development. The teams need to have good pitching development. The Dodgers have probably the best pitching development. They have a great team, long-term success. As much as I want to get excited about him possibly going somewhere else, it's hard to see it being anywhere by the Dodgers. And so the two other free agents who are still available, the two other big free agents who are still available, I'm keeping a running list here. I have a running list of the top 21 free agents. I think this was according to The Athletic. So 14 of the top 21, so 2/3 of the top 21 free agents are still available. According to that list, the 7 remaining are ROKI Sasaki, Alex Bergman, Anthony Santander, Jack Flaherty, Ha-Sung Kim, Jerickson Profar, and Tanner Scott. And so we just covered ROKI Sasaki, but the big question marks here are Bergman, Alonso, and Anthony Santander. And so over the weekend, the Tigers added Gleyber Torres on a 1-year deal. And there's been a lot of speculation about where Bergman will go. Where will he land? Is he going to link up with A.J. Hinch back in Detroit? And people were first nervous that this might take them out of the Bergman mix, which they were said to be involved in all along. Boy, does Bergman make the Tigers, if that happens, make them a great team. And there are so many teams that are linked to Bergman that it really just changes their outlook. If the Tigers sign Bergman, they are a top 3 team in the AL. Maybe the Orioles are better. Maybe not. Tigers are putting something together, and Bergman, to me, is kind of that missing bat. They when you were watching them in the playoffs, they needed that bat. Another team I like for them are the Red Sox. And talk about divisions kind of having 3 horses and 3 top horses, real horses at the top of them. If the Red Sox can sign Bergman and they have what to figure out with the infield, but if they can sign Bergman, boy, that's a great pitching staff, a very solid to great lineup, and a very solid bullpen. And that leads me to the third team that's kind of been talked about with Bergman, and that's the New York Mets. They're so bogged down by this Pete Alonso sweepstakes, or lack thereof. If you ask me, and I've obviously followed this situation very closely, and I've said since the beginning, I don't think that any of the Mets' moves this offseason have any bearing on Pete Alonso. I think they're two totally separate things to think about. They will sign Pete Alonso if it is the right price in their eyes, regardless of what else they do. So I think they're in on Bergman. I also think they're in on Anthony Santander. Why do I think that? 2 reasons. 1, they were linked to him early in the offseason. 2, they clearly want a power DH bat, another power DH bat, or else they wouldn't have been in on Jock Peterson. And so I think that the team to really look for here and to keep an eye on is the Mets. I think they're in on all 3 of these guys. I think there is a world where they sign Bergman I think there's a world where they sign Anthony Santander. I think there's a world where they sign both Bergman and Pete Alonso, and there's a world where they sign Anthony Santander and Pete Alonso. Keep an eye open for the New York Mets on that front. Okay, that's it. Good show. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in.